10 minutes to 6 o'clock. A president deposed, arguments over whether Egypt has seen a military coup or not, and today pro-Morsi supporters shot dead as they march on the building believed to be where the former president is being detained. Has the country moved from a democratically elected government to a military regime, or has a popular uprising brought down a government? Nabila Ramdani is a journalist and commentator who specialises in French politics, Islamic affairs and the Arab world, and joins us now from London. Nabila, everyone is asking the question, where does Egypt go from here? Are you optimistic that the military are on the side of the people and will restore democracy as quickly as possible?
Well, it will be hard to make such a judgment at this time, at this point in time, and in fact, it would be hard to believe that the military would want to restore democracy at any time. Remember that the military has effectively been in charge of the country since 1952, when a coup was organized by free officers and overthrew a republic and the monarchy, and the First Republic was established at the time. But ever since, the military has been pulling the strings behind the scenes, and the military has not only been involved in the political affairs of Egypt for decades, but also has a massive stake in the economy. And people argue that it is taking advantage of the chaos and indeed the unpopularity of President Morsi to stage a highly sophisticated coup to yet again impose their own rule.
You had predicted that there would be trouble because of the people's unhappiness with the Morsi presidency, but had you seen the speed at which developments unfolded?
No, not at all. There have been demonstrations throughout Mohamed Morsi's presidency, and in fact he was increasingly unpopular because of his failings on many fronts, and especially on the economy. He failed to fix the economy, which was always going to be a huge task, but one Egyptian in four live under the poverty line. I think other failures that the Egyptians were particularly angry about were the fact that he was increasingly ruling by diktat. And they saw that as a return of some sort of authoritarian rule. And that's why 1 year on into his presidency, people took to the streets en masse as never before.
But of course he was democratically elected in fair and free elections, and there is a process in democracy if you're unhappy with a leader. But this is a fledgling democracy, if you can, I suppose, call what's happening in Egypt now democratic politics at all. Are they developing a new way of doing things?
Well, you are quite right to highlight this point. I think it's a very important one. Egypt has experienced its first free and fair presidential elections in decades last year, and literally millions of people have yet to come to terms with the ramifications of those elections. And what they failed to achieve, to accept effectively, is that Morsi and his government are the result of a democratic process. And so to call for his removal before he's really had a chance to achieve success is a bit, perhaps, it's a sign of an immature democracy. And I think pragmatism instead of a knee-jerk reaction, meaning getting rid of a government the moment things turn rough, would be perhaps more apt. And of course, dissent and failure are part and parcel of politics. It doesn't mean that you orchestrate a coup against a failing ruler.
I suppose it begs the question that if new democratic elections are held and a new president is elected, and if the people are unhappy, that they will move in the same way again. But the interim government or the interim leadership has reached out, I think, to the Muslim Brotherhood, but then most of the Muslim Brotherhood and its leadership is either arrested or not around at the moment.
Well, that's the irony in all this. Of course, we've heard the interim president saying that he would like to include a representative of the Muslim Brotherhood into a coalition government. But the reality is the military is carrying out a ferocious crackdown on the leadership in particular of the Muslim Brotherhood, but also on the supporters, as it's been exemplified today. They are rounded up They are put in prison. The leadership of the Muslim Brotherhood has seen travel bans issued at them. And of course, the Muslim Brotherhood president is detained at the moment. And in another twist, we've heard the new interim president nominate his head of intelligence, who happens to be a Mubarak-era general, a military man, with cases of corruption which have been filed against him. So that will not go down well with people who essentially would want some sort of normalcy and indeed perhaps a move forward towards a democratic rule.
I think you are very pessimistic for Egypt. You were writing in the London Evening Standard calling what's been happening an unmitigated disaster, a descent into chaos. Can you see a way back?
I think I'm being an objective observer, to be frankly honest. The reason the military in Egypt is also deeply concerned, and that's the reason why they literally sealed the borders. They fear that foreign fighters, sympathizers of the Muslim Brotherhood, but also radical elements, including Al-Qaeda elements, might come into Egypt and try to win back the Muslim Brotherhood's mandate. And we are already seeing a scenario where the Egypt military is pitting against religious insurgents, effectively, and we've seen just this morning, elements of that playing out in the Sinai area of Egypt and indeed Suez, where an airport was attacked by jihadi elements, and indeed the Egyptian and Israeli authorities have now closed the Rafah border with Gaza.
Thank you for joining us, Nabila Ramdani, there at 3 minutes to 6 o'clock. We'll take a break.